Tell me about the Dodgers.
Yeah, and that's something that developed over time. I would say collaboration is a major strength of the Dodgers, but what I think, and taking it a step further in terms of what I've heard throughout the league from players coming in, from other execs who try to model themselves after the Dodgers, their secret sauce is synergy. Okay, every aspect of the organization being in lockstep, from every aspect of the minor leagues, from a training staff, from your pitching coaches, from your analytical staff, from your R&D staff. Everybody sort of works in lockstep, and that's part of that collaboration that you're talking about. And the Dodgers, and I feel like this is what happened throughout the industry, where like everybody wanted to be first and wanted to be the most cutting edge, analytically minded team. And then once that happened, and everybody to a certain extent caught up to each other, the next advantage was, how do you blend these two things together? Okay. And that takes the collaboration that you're talking about. I'll go back to an example. You were talking about situational hitting, right? And I think the Dodgers learned this, going back to the Dodgers example, with constant failure in the playoffs. And this is something that Dave Roberts talks about all the time. You got to have different tools in your tool bag. Okay, like, yes, you could be an offense that chases slug, that looks for pitches in a certain zone and capitalizes on those mistakes and doesn't chase outside of it, like Max Muncy is the most extreme example of that for the Dodgers, right? But you got to be a good situational hitting team, okay? And the Dodgers learned that if you are not a good situational hitting team, you are going to fail in October. These last two nights, we're taping this on a Wednesday, on a Thursday, Tuesday and Wednesday, the Dodgers struggled to score offensively, and Dave Roberts got into the interview room and lamented how his team was not situational hitting. Old school baseball, two-strike approach. Have a plan when you're up there. You need a sacrifice fly. Work to get a ball to the outfield, okay? Like, the Dodgers are the most, like, there's nothing resource-wise and analytics-wise that the Dodgers do not possess, okay? But they still have those principles. They still have grizzled older scouts who are just out there watching guys. Like, you need to have both. And it seems like, and I don't know the inner workings as well as you do of the Red Sox, Buster, as well as you do, but it seems like if they're going to go all the way to one side, I mean, they're missing a major aspect of this, and this is just, it's not going to work.
So I'll give you a great example of this that I've heard in recent days, okay? James Tibbs was a player that they got in that trade with Rafael Devers last year. And when he joined the Red Sox organization, the focus for him was, hey, you're not as good as you should be on high fastballs. And so there was a lot of work done the Red Sox organization, putting a ball on a tee. Here, we're going to teach you how to hit a high fastball. Well, he got flipped, as you know, to the Dodgers organization. That that adjustment didn't work well for him last year. He goes to the Dodgers organization, and their feeling is, hey, everybody struggles against high fastballs. The best hitter of this generation, maybe Mike Trout, still struggles with high fastballs. Don't worry about it. We're going to work with what you do well. We're going to work with you as a hitter and what your strengths are. And James Tibbs is responding. 321 average, 430 on base percentage, the minor league, 723 slug. And so the Dodgers have tapped into this, which again, and I think part of the message that went to James Tibbs, from what I understand, was, look, when you get to the big leagues, you might have things you want to do. What's going to be important for you is you got to find a way to get the ball in play with a runner at third base. Dave Roberts is going to want you to focus on what's needed in that moment to win games. What can we do to win games? Not just have, the projected model swing, and which is absolutely matches everything you were just talking about with what the Dodgers do. So I agree with you. It's going to be fascinating because Breslow, I mean, everything is top down. This is what we're doing. You need to execute this. It's so different with the Dodgers. I wanted to ask you about Shohei Ohtani. We've now had two situations in which the Dodgers have decided, you know what, on the days you pitch, we're not going to put you at DH. Can you talk through Dave Roberts' thinking on that and how often you think it's going to happen? Because I think it's going to happen more than people realize.
Yeah, I do. And I was told this on the first day that they did this with him, which was, I think, our game, April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day. I think that was the first day that he wasn't in the lineup. they're gonna look for these opportunities because, and I think it's smart. These are half days for him, right? And you got to understand, they need Shohei Ohtani to be a full-fledged two-way player, pitching deep into games in the lineup every day, running the bases aggressively for as long as they're going to advance in October. Okay, that is a 7th month in this season. Shohei Ohtani is going to be 32 this summer. He hasn't taken on a two-way role full-time in 3 years. The last time he completed it for a full season was 4 years ago, in 2022. So, like, for example, Tuesday they did this. And it was a good day for it because it was his first time starting on 5 days rest. It's usually 6 days rest. Okay. They had played 12 games in a row. There was a day game on Wednesday. They had the off day on Thursday. He could sort of couple his rest. And oh, by the way, it's April. All right. Now, I don't know how Shohei Ohtani feels about this. He's polite. He says the right things. He and Dave don't really talk big picture like that. Dave will just tell him, hey, like, you're not going to be in the lineup today. And he'll be like, okay. And that's it. So I don't know how he feels about this. But it's all about just preserving Shohei Ohtani for doing this for a full year. And I think Dave Roberts said this best when he said, Shohei Ohtani wants to make every start. And with that, there has to be a compromise. Okay? You can't hit every day. Some days we're going to take you out of the lineup. And like one of my favorite things in baseball to watch is Shohei Ohtani making a start at home. All right? Getting through with the top of the first, scrambling to come back into the dugout, leaning up against the railing and just like fighting to put on his elbow guard, his shin guards, his helmet and his bat. And then he races to the batter's box and takes his first swing to the day against one of the best pitchers in the world. That's awesome, but it's also taxing. And I don't think they're going to do this all the time. But Ohtani wants to be in the lineup every single day. And if you're counting on this guy as much as you are, and if you want him to pitch as long as possible, which, like, I don't know how long he's going to be able to pitch, like, yeah, to me, it makes all the sense in the world. Even though I'm a baseball fan first and I would love to just see it, I get it.
You know what I love about it too, and tell me if you disagree with me on this. Mookie Betts last year he made it clear he wanted to try to play shortstop, and I think if you gave truth serum to the Dodger people at the beginning of the year, they weren't sure if it was going to work, and they always knew that at the end of the year that if it didn't work, then they could always switch back. But they wanted to respect Mookie's ambition, his work ethic, his devotion to this idea. And so they stood back and gave him the opportunity to try to make this happen. And guess what? He was great. And he played shortstop all the way through the year. I think in some respects, and again, you're around the team more than I am, I kind of wonder if they're doing the same thing with Shohei and the Cy Young Award, right? They're like, okay, we hear you. This is something you want to do. You want to be dominant as a pitcher. We want to give you that opportunity, but there are going to be some adjustments along the way. It feels like to me from afar.
I think that could be part of it, but I'll go back to what I said before, though.
Okay.
This is all about October. This is a Dodgers team that has learned through trial that it needs to set itself up for October as much as possible. But to your point, Buster, about the Cy Young Award, first of all, and we talked about this before, like Shohei Ohtani wants to win the Cy Young. He is as motivated to win a Cy Young this year as he was in 2024 to steal more bases than ever and have a 40-40 season, which ended up being a 50-50 season. But by doing this, I do wonder, and I neglected to ask Dave about this the other day, but I would like to when I get a chance again. If because they're doing this now down the stretch, he could make starts on 5 days rest, maybe on 4 days rest if they really need him. Because the big question about Ohtani and the Cy Young Award is he going to compile enough innings? Okay, maybe this will free that up in August and September.
Yeah. That's absolutely right. And let's be clear, when we get into October, he's going to pitch at DH.
Every day.
He's going to do it every time. So this is only a regular season thing. I wanted to ask you about the Atlanta Braves. They are on a serious roll. They've taken the National League East by the throat. And here they've got help coming back. Spencer Strider is now lined up to pitch this weekend. Sean Murphy is going to be back in about a week. Hassan Kim, the shortstop that they initially signed to play that position, he's coming back. I think it's the deepest Braves roster that I've seen since 2021 when they won the World Series after Alex Anthopoulos made all those trades in the second half. This is a loaded roster. Michael Harris has taken a huge step forward. Drake Baldwin is a top 10 MVP candidate with how he's playing. Matt Olson, the walk-off home run on Wednesday night is 297th of his career. I don't think anybody's catching this team.
Wow.
Gentlemen, it is another series. The Dodgers went 13 straight games. They go 6-7 in those games. By the way that all these other Dodgers shows and some of these pundits are talking, you would feel like the sky is falling for a team that still has the second best record in baseball. They're on pace to win 104 games. But Fabian, the offense, the situational hitting, as Dave Roberts has harped on, was not at its best during that 13-game run.
Yeah, I think Tuesday night was the first time all season you've really heard some frustration from Dave Roberts, basically saying like, hey, some guys are going out there, they don't really have a plan. And that's something that the Dodgers kind of preach to guys like, hey, know what you're doing in those spots, especially situationally, understanding this is a veteran-laden group, that this is not something that they usually need to worry about. But the last couple of days, last couple of games, that Marlins series, the situational at-bats weren't good enough. They haven't generated enough opportunities in general. And I think the big thing is like the numbers for the month have been really good. Like they are tops or second in the league in runs per game, in batting average, in WRC plus, and all these other metrics. Like they are statistically one of the best offenses in baseball. But I think it stands out that they've done this without their stars really getting going at any point. Like none of their stars are up to their normal career highs or career norms. And I think that's the one thing that stands out to me with this opening month. Like I don't think it's necessarily cause for concern, but it's certainly something to watch because this is the oldest position player group in baseball. They knew this coming in. But yeah, it's worth monitoring how Shohei Ohtani looks in his first full season as a two-way player, how Freddie Freeman looks coming off a down April, Teoscar Hernandez coming off a down last summer of last year, not really having the first month that people were expecting to have. And then obviously Kyle Tucker, as we've talked about a lot, going off to a slow start. It's not necessarily a chance to hit the panic button just yet, but it's one of those things where you have a whole month sample now of these guys, and they haven't gotten going. I think the Dodgers are really kind of waiting for that, and they had anticipated the team having higher floor offensively than they did last year. And I think the overall end lines stats sort of show that, but it also shows this series kind of shows how important it is for those guys to start to get going, to pick up when an Andy Pages starts to cool off, a Dalton Rushing starts to cool off on the days where Max Muncy is feeling under the weather like he was all last week.
Yeah, I think, Fabian, that's the fascinating way to evaluate this team is that, you point out the offensive numbers. I mean, they're tops in OPS, really top 5 in most offensive categories. But, Jerry, there's just something that doesn't feel right about the offense right now, just from an eye test because of how this team usually goes about at-bats, right? I mean, taking more pitches, finding a way to get those timely hits. You saw the Marlins series, they're going 7 for 28, 26 men left on base, just was very uncharacteristic from this Dodgers offense against the M's.
Very uncharacteristic. Now, you got to remember, listen, you play a long time, long season. You understand it's April. But I love the fact that manager Dave Roberts said, listen, we want to address this now. Dave Roberts knows this. It's so hard, and I know this. It is so hard, and I think it's the hardest thing to do in all sports to get hits in the big leagues. It's so hard to do that. But what you can do is make sure when you have opportunity to score runs, you put the ball in play, move guys over. That way, you can score runs without even getting a hit. And that's what's the most frustrating part for manager Dave Roberts. Now, I'm going to look at the positives, okay? I know Fabian mentioned Dalton Rushing, Andy Pages. Those guys are off to great starts. And we've won a lot of ball games without Mookie Betts, who is a game-changing type player, especially with the bat in our offense. We've won a lot of ball games with Shohei Ohtani, not really being Shohei Ohtani with the bat yet. He's got good numbers, but it's not Shohei Ohtani-esque. Freddie Freeman has kind of hit a lull a little bit with the bat, but we're still winning some ball games. So I always say, listen, we want to make sure we're playing our best baseball September, October. And sometimes you get into the season, you get in a little bit of a rut. You're trying to find ways to play your best. It's just not going to happen. Now, what I love about it is it was humbling to know that if you really looked and dissect the Marlins series, they could have easily got swept. They could have easily got swept in that series if it wasn't for a Kyle Tucker walk-off. So what it tells me is, say, hey, I don't care who we're playing. You got to be able to be firing on all cylinders, and you got to be able to execute, because if you don't execute, you're going to win. You're going to lose some ball games and maybe lose a series. So I think if I'm the manager of that, like Dave Roberts, I look back at this series. Hey guys, we got to make sure we cross our T's, dot our I's, and I think moving forward, they're going to be able to do that. And I think sometimes getting away to a road trip where you can kind of get together, like going to St. Louis, like going to Houston, you can kind of galvanize each other and make sure, guys, we got to make sure we execute, because if we fail to execute, it could end up just like we did against the Marlins, losing that series.
Yeah, I mean, we see the ebbs and flows of an offense, it feels like, every season. But generally, I think the tough thing for me is that you get to kind of analyze these specific situations, and you look at the Shohei Ohtani start game. You look at the bottom of the first inning. You have the bases loaded. Teo doesn't come through. Muncy doesn't come through. You look at Freddie Freeman in the finishing game of the series. Goes 0 for 5, grounds into 2 double plays, 1 unassisted double play. It's not like these are players that don't have a history of coming through. I mean, these are veterans that have done it for such a long time for this team that you just have to believe that it's going to turn and they're going to figure things out.
And I think some of it also, like if you look at the end numbers, like the Dodgers are so towards the top in runners scoring position. Some of it is that road trip to DC and Toronto, where it seemed like every time they had a guy in scoring position, they got a hit. That means inevitably there's going to be stretches where you can't seem to buy a hit with runners in scoring position, and then it winds up being somewhere in the middle. So some of it was due for some regression, I think, in a little bit, and I think we're seeing that. But also, I do think there is something to some guys not having a plan up there, or guys sort of feeling in between on their swings. And sometimes it just all collectively comes together like that over the course of 3 games. And yeah, to Jerry's point, maybe going back on the road can open something up. Maybe an off day can open something up after 13 in a row. I think it's one of those things that it's worth monitoring now, but it's not necessarily anything worth hitting the panic button on.
I will say this. I love the answer. Freddie Freeman making no excuses. Max Muncy making no excuses. These guys, if you look at their reaction after they failed to get a guy in from third base, you see Max Muncy slamming his bat on the ground. Freddie Freeman in disgust with himself, not being able to come through, getting a guy over. They know what needs to be done. I'm telling you guys, I've been on great teams. I've been on some bad teams too now. I've been on some bad teams, but I've been on great teams where 6, 7, 10 days where it's just not there. It's just not there. And trust me, guys know what needs to be done, but it just is not happening. And guys understand what needs to be done. And I think the good thing, the positive thing is this is a veteran team. They know exactly what they need to do to address certain matters. And if they need to talk to each other, hey, in a hitter's meeting, hey, guys, we got to make sure we lock in, get things done. But I think this is a group to understand it is a long season. It's an absolute long grind. These guys have played so much baseball the last few years, from you talk about the Korea trip, then the Japan trip, then very next year. Then you go all the way to playing 5 games in the World Series against the Yankees, grueling series, and then 7 games of the World Series against the Blue Jays. We all know that's the greatest World Series, I think, in recent memory. These guys played a lot of games, man. So I think sometimes you can have a little bit of a mental lull because you understand, bro, we're in it for the long haul. This is a tough stretch. But I think this day off that they had yesterday will re-energize this team, and they're going to have a good road trip.
Yeah, you're right, Jerry. Thankfully, they have 131 games to get it together before the postseason begins. And Fabian, as Freddie pointed out, the starting pitching has been so effective. They've been dominant, really, for the most part, that they've allowed this offense to have a lot of players, really, outside of Andy Paz and Max Muncy and Dalton Rushing, who have played above what they were expected to play at as far as the overall numbers. I mean, the starting pitching has really carried so far.
100%. I think that's why those were 3 one-run games against the Marlins. Is the reasons because they were low scoring, because the pitching kept them in it. And like even on a day where Yoshinobu Yamamoto didn't have his best stuff on Monday, like he was still able to keep them in that game. Obviously, Shohei Ohtani, same sort of thing. That was probably his worst start of the season so far, and he still went 6 innings, 2 runs, only one of them earned. And obviously, Tyler Glasnow, same sort of thing, where his worst start of the month was the only one he didn't finish 6 innings, but he still was dominant through stretches there, even when he didn't have his best command. So I think that sort of speaks to the floor, the talent that we've already seen out of this rotation. It's why even having surprise starts from Justin Robleski makes it even better. It's been easily the strength of this team so far to start the year has been the starting pitching, even with some of the stuff we've talked about, like Roki Saki struggling and stuff like that. Like that is the clear kind of standout point for this Dodgers team, and it's only going to get.
I think it's one game it's a playoff game every game, and you have those 162 times a year. But as a player, you know it is a long grind. And I remember Ryan Saber, I said it previous. Ryan Saber used to always say, if I can hit around 240, 235, maybe 250 in April, I'm going to really take off in May, because I know that's when I get my season going. I really fire on all cylinders. April, I'm telling you guys, April is usually a feeling out period for a lot of hitters, especially. I know Shohei Ohtani's talked about it. It's a feeling out period. Okay, where's my swing at? Where do I need to be? Freddie Freeman even talks about it. Okay, what do I need to do to make my adjustments to make sure I'm ready to go for that long haul May on through the regular season? You'll hit a dip probably in August if you're a little tired and get that second win. But April is a feeling out period. And for a guy like Kyle Tucker, it's a new team. Yes, it's a big contract, but this guy's been a big leaguer for quite some time. He's a veteran guy. He's just missing his pitch. He doesn't seem to me like he's in a rut at all. And again, it's one thing if he's striking out a lot and he's chasing a lot. He's fouling off pitches that he normally crushes. And then you're seeing when he does barrel them up, it's a rocket to right. And I'm telling you, this guy is just too talented, too good of a player that I know he's going to figure it out. I love the fact that now I preferred him hitting seconds early in the season because I knew he'd get a lot of fastballs, but he became too passive to me hitting second. I think hitting fourth cleanup, you have one thing in your mind. I'm a run producer. I got to be up there driving in runs as opposed to maybe taking a pitch or two with Shohei Ohtani on first base, allowing him to steal or have that opportunity to steal. Now I think it takes the guesswork out of it. It takes the mind game out of as far as hitting in the 4-hole. My job is to drive in runs. If that's the first pitch I'm going, looking for some up in the zone to drive, I'm going to hammer it. So I think he's going to really catch fire with the bat. Again, he's just too good of a player.
Yeah, Dodgers hitters in the 2-hole. You got Freddie, you got Tucker for the most part, a 597 OPS hitting 220. Fabian, there's talk that, of course, he's more aggressive on the first pitch now than he's really been throughout his career. What do you make of that?
I think some of it is like understanding that guys are going to be attacking in the zone probably a little bit more in this lineup, understanding that he has more help around him, that they're going to have to kind of challenge him more. And I think he's trying to jump on, because sometimes, like, if you're swinging at the first pitch, that's usually the best pitch that you're going to see a lot of times. Like, you have a lot of success swinging at the first pitch. The problem with him has been maybe it's been a little bit predictable. You could sort of get into chase early in counts, which he did a little bit early on in the season. I think the process has looked better to the eye test the last week or so, where it's less chase, less swing and miss. The contact hasn't necessarily been a lot better, but like there have been signs at least where there's a lot more pulled contact in the air. That double he had on Wednesday was a good example of that. That's a ball that if he gets a little bit more of a hold of it, it's gone, but it's still like a double. That's the type of contact the Dodgers are kind of looking to have. That's the type of contact he's had throughout his career. So I think sort of to Jerry's point, like it doesn't look as much like it did maybe early on in the season where he was chasing, he was swinging and missing. It looked very un-Kyle Tucker-like. I think now it looks like he's doing Kyle Tucker things. His swing is still just like a little bit off, and that at least is more encouraging than what you were seeing before. I think what you were seeing before is like, all right, this guy's getting out of himself. He really isn't feeling it. I think now he's like, all right, like I'm going to keep going about my bats the way I usually go about them, and the process will kind of correct itself. Eventually the swings will kind of connect and the results will sort of follow. I think at least it's trending upwards, even though he clearly hasn't caught fire yet.
Yeah, you just kind of look back at some of his highlights, the Cubs and the Astros. I mean, the swing path, the pitch selection, just the conviction that kind of led to more barrels, higher EVs, better at bats. I mean, it just looks a little like he's somewhat in between, a little out of sync right now. I think there's a lot of factors in play. But I mean, the good thing is, like you said, he had that moment and things are trending upward. Even though it's not this night and day difference, things are trending in the right direction. Now, Freddie Freeman, I do want to get a quick take on you guys on Freddie. I've always called him baseball's version of fine wine because he gets better with age and really had his best individual seasons with the Dodgers. But he's grinding right now. I mean, the batted ball stuff still looks decent, and he's had some bad luck, really. But still, I mean, this is a guy who makes no mistake about it. He wants to hit 300. He wants a 3 in front of his batting average. Right now, it's pretty far from that. Fabian, what are you seeing from Freddie at the moment?
Yeah, I think early on in the season, there's a lot of like the batted ball luck. The amount of times he hit the ball to the track that got caught, and balls that like would have been doubles or homers later on in the season weren't. I do think the last couple of weeks, the last week or so especially, he's kind of looked more like a guy who is in a slump. And that's sort of, you see some of the stuff that you don't typically see from Freddie, some more swing and miss, rolling over pitches. Like I think the last at bat on Wednesday is kind of a good example of it. He's like, I'm looking for strikes. I'm getting the pitches to hit. I'm just not hitting them. And yeah, like that's a situation where surely he probably would want to get the ball in the air, especially a sweeper over the plate, like understanding the game, the ball in the air gives you a chance to score the run without the risk of the double play. And the fact that that ball got hit into the ground sort of just tells you that the swing is off. And he just looks like a guy whose swing is off right now. And is it maybe telling that he's played 9 in a row and maybe he's starting feeling that a little bit? Maybe his swing is just off. I'm sure the off day will help. And he's a guy who it would have to be a lot more prolonged stretch of this to really actually be concerned about him. Because like this is the same guy who this isn't like he looked like in the middle of last year where the numbers were worse and also he looked worse. He didn't look healthy. Now he like looks healthy. It's just the swing just doesn't look like it's in the best place.
When you look at Fab Five Freddy, Jerry, as you like to call him, I mean, what confidence do you have that, hey, this is just a blip and that there's not, I mean, look, 6 months ago, he hit the game-winning home run in the World Series, right? I mean, let's not forget, this is a guy that I think it's very clear that he wants 3,000 hits. He knows he's got 4 years of baseball around that in it and 130 hits a year. Like, he's still in the midst of chasing something along with team success as well.
Listen, I just think this homestand just wasn't it just wasn't his best. He understands it. He's trying to figure it out. Now, if you go back to the start of the season, he was barreling just about everything up, but he had nothing to show for it. And then he got on that road trip to DC, Toronto. He started to find, obviously, hits, started to find his rhythm, and then he kind of lost it a little bit. I think right now he's in a mix where he's kind of in between. He knows he doesn't feel great at the plate, but he knows he's got enough great bat-to-ball skills to be at least be able to put the ball in play and get hits. I think what's bothered him the most is, like Fabian touched on it, that last at-bat against the Marlins, execution. If I could just get something up in the zone, I can get a sac fly, we could tie up this ball game. Instead, he rolls it over, and it's a game-ending double play, and they lose the ball game. I think sometimes you take a step back, having a tough homestand, you have that day off. A lot of times I would have loved to, when I was playing, especially guys I played with, you have that day off to kind of look at, video when you were going good and then kind of when you're going bad right now, and you kind of look at it side by side and you kind of decipher, what exactly am I doing wrong here? And then you look at what you're doing right, and you use that off day to figure out, okay, I can kind of recalibrate a little bit. Okay, this is what I need to do to try. Maybe I'm starting late. I'm not getting started. I'm behind, and I'm rushing my swing because I'm late. It could be as simple as that. I trust Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman has been one of the greatest hitters of all time. If you look back at his career, what he's done, especially with runners in scoring position, he's one of the best hitters that this game's ever seen. So I trust him figuring out. He is not getting old. This just happens throughout the course of a long season. And I know Freddie Freeman would find it. And I know St. Louis, historically, he's done well. It's a really good place to hit. It's fair. You see the ball very, very well there. And I have a feeling Fab Five Freddie will regain his form there in St. Louis.
Yeah, I mean, he's going through it, right? I mean, I hate when I see that. A player north of 35 starts to go on a slump, and then all of a sudden, it's the beginning of the end. No, that's
guys go in slumps when they're 25 and 28. That's
no, exactly. Yeah. But honestly, though, but as Fabian pointed out in one of his most recent articles for The Athletic, this is a team, I think 30 and a half years, the average age and things like that. We can always talk about the day-to-day, the week-to-week, but the big macro angle on this team is when will those stars in their prime start to decline? And when you're as great as Freddie, as great as Mookie, as great as Shohei, I mean, there's an inevitable decline. It's just, when is it going to happen? But then that's why you add a Kyle Tucker in his prime, and you get an emergence of Andy Paz, and Will Smith is still in his prime and things like that. But Fabian, how much do you think that that's something that just kind of is following this team this year, just kind of understanding, hey, maybe Freddie might need a couple days off here and there because of Dawn Rushing's production? Would he be open to that possibly?
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that's been a conversation around the team for basically since